I want to talk some from these passages of Scripture. Brought out of the horrible pit. Touch your neighbor and say, God brought us out of the horrible pit. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. He brought us. This being African American History Month, and we are already listening at our mothers share with us concerning their experiences, but God had brought us as a race of people out from the dungeons. He had brought us out. Here was David, the psalmist, here in the 40th division says, I waited patiently for the Lord. That is something that we don't really want to do, is wait for the Lord. But he says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. And after God hearing our cry, he brought us up out of. He brought, David said, he brought me up also out of the horrible pit and of the miry clay, and set my feet up on a rock and established my going. Now that's good news, to know that God is still bringing out of the horrible pit. Some of the experiences as we look at our history of how God had brought us. When we look and think in terms of how we got here in the first place, we came to this country against our will. Most of the nationalities or the race of people that are here, ethnicity of people that are here, came on their own. But the African Americans came here against our will. I ain't getting nobody in. Because when we look back at the history of our people, we are some courageous people. We're some strong people. We are people that's made up out of the good stuff. I said we are made up out of some good material. We are able to weather the storms that have been thrown in our way. A history of Black America. Before I get on down into where I really want to go, I want to tell you something about some that helped pave the roads that we are traveling today. The roads that we are traveling were not paved back in the day. This I'm speaking of in a metaphor, and also at the same time is so much truth into the actual roads that I'm talking about. But may I just tell you and give you a little history about Black America, and then we're going to pick it up where we started. You know, preaching sometimes is like hunting. Well, I was reading somewhere the other day, it says, well, it's like rabbit hunting. It's if there's no meat on the rabbit, no need hunting him. But if you find some meat that's on the rabbit, he's worth hunting. So where I'm going, there's enough meat on what I'm going to tell you is really worth telling you. I ain't getting nobody in me. But black America, we must never forget our history. Now, I know that there are some that don't talk about that because it really distorts our new generation. But if our new generation don't understand from which we have come, they don't really know where they are going. So the news of our history may not sound good. It may not taste good to your taste buds, but you can rely upon where we have come from. It might not be appreciated just to tell you from whence we have come, but it's good news. And if you really want to really know where you're going, know where you've come from. I ain't getting nobody in here. I just want to serve just a few here about our history. So as the day, Lerone Bennett, in his book, he says this. He says, as the decades wore on, and as Negro baiting became more virulent, lynching became more barbarous, and lynchers became more sadistic, victims, including women, were burned at the stake, mutilated, hacked in pieces, and roasted over slow fires. Contrary to the generally accepted view, only a small percentage of the 1,217 persons lynched between 1890 and 1900 were accused of rape. Others, the overwhelming majority, were charged with the crimes of testifying against whites in court, seeking other jobs, using offensive language, failing to say "muster" to whites, disputing the price of blackberries, attempting to vote, and accepting jobs as a postmaster. Those that accepted jobs as a postmaster were lynched. Many, if you didn't say Mr. or Mrs., they were lynched. I'm talking about African American history. But God brought us. In spite of all of the thorns and the thistles and all that have come our way, it has been God that brought us. We have some great abolitionists that helped pave the way when there were no paved roads, as I mentioned. When we think, and I'm going to tell you this, young folk, education in this country is one of the greatest things that you can get outside of salvation.